Hi everyone, Caroline here from Pike Homestead, now Oak and Acre, and just kind of wanting to share a little video about homesteading without land. Right now, as we're between leaving our farm in Canada and trying to find our new place here in the UK, um, we're finding that we still want to live that life as much as possible before we actually get the land that we're looking for. And many of us don't actually currently have any land for homesteading. So I figured this might be a little helpful to hear kind of what we're doing. So I'm going to kind of show what we're kind of working on at the moment, what our bigger plan is, and our goal, and what we're going to be doing along the way. So currently we're renting, and the problem we're facing here is that the backyard isn't really run and managed by us. So, and there's a driveway that kind of is used by the landlord. So we're limited on what we can put where, which is a little frustrating because we can't put in a chicken coop or we can't put in a garden because they're using that space and that as well. So having it shared like that with different goals, well, it makes it so we can't do the things we want to do. But it doesn't mean we can't do anything. So we're going to be working on doing potted potatoes and tomatoes and things like that. With Adam's work, he now works on a egg farm, and because of that we're not allowed to have chickens, or we really shouldn't, so that we can keep that biosecurity between the two spaces very good. So that limits our chicken or bird options that we have. But with that said, we can do other things. We have local places we can shop. We have local kind of different areas that we can kind of do that. And I'll break that down in a little bit. But basically, with where we're at now, because we're limited, we've been trying to get creative on what we can do. Our goal is to buy a property for our big community that we want to build. We're exploring buying land, but the suitable properties that fit our larger vision are priced between £1 to £2 million. Properties are available in those lower price ranges, say 300 to 800,000, more towards that higher end. However, they need either significant renovations, or it only comes with an acre or two, which is great if you're feeding just yourself, but that's not our goal. Or it places us so far north, we're going to be in those long, harsh winters. Winters, so we're determined to avoid that again, if possible. Again, once it comes down to the point when we can buy, we'll make those decisions, right? So basically, what is our long-term goal? So our long-term vision is, and our ultimate dream, we all have them, but ours is a regenerative community farm. So what that means is there'll be multiple families living on the property, as well as collaborating on running that property. And we'll have livestock, which will be going through regenerative multi-species rotations. So that will be cows and sheep together, for example, followed by chickens, followed by pigs and ducks and all those things, going through the system to really give it that wild type of activity that you would see on a piece of land. We want to also operate a thriving market garden, and with that, it will give us enough food to feed those families, and then also enough food to sell to our nearby village or town where we are, and that will give us our self-sufficiency. So we'll be able to feed, house, and have all the water and electric, whatever we need, on that farm will be paid for by the work that we do. We're also going to have our community be a host of farm stays, educational workshops, hands-on experiences, and basically become an inspiration and an inspiring kind of example of what sustainable living and communal kind of support is like, using these regenerative practices. We're strong believers that with the way the world is going at the moment, this is the way we need to go back to. and living in those kind of more community supported, focused on your own village and town and neighbors kind of living. When we lived in Canada, we had a lot of we experienced the community, and we found that you can't homestead by yourself. There's a lot in the homestead community that talks about going out there, feeding yourself, sustaining yourself, go hike off into the woods and be by yourself. Do look out for your family first and do everything for yourself and yourself and yourself. And it's very self-centered, kind of fend for yourself. Nobody else is going to care for you kind of mentality. And I mean, that falls into kind of the more proper kind of side of everything. But homesteading is more about community. You need that group. You need to work together. You share resources. You have dinners together, you do all these things, and it's what we're meant to be doing as a species. It's how we're meant to live. We're meant to live in harmony with nature. God himself told us to shepherd the land and care for the earth. Then that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're seeing such a push for plant-based, non-animal systems. The UK is pushing to shrink the cow and sheep that we have by like 30%, and so we can plant trees. And we wrote a blog post on that and our thoughts. So check that out if you haven't already on our website. But basically, that's not going to help because they've said themselves we can't plant enough trees to offset what we need to offset. Reducing the animals off the farmland isn't the solution. Reducing the animals in the industrial practices is the solution, and moving them onto the land is the solution. You need animals to maintain nature. It's part of nature. You need to have them working together, and the problem is there's no profit in that. I saw a thing that in the next, I don't know, 5 years they're looking at putting lab grown meat into supermarkets. And I just saw an article this morning about how they're looking at one area to cut down the amount of industrial chickens because the manure is polluting the water. Now, I'm not saying that's not something that's happening, but they do mention that a lot of the farming of like the crops is part of the problem, but they didn't give a percentage of how much is the chickens. And they're saying the manure really needs to be well managed. I mean, that's chicken manure is such a good thing for the garden. We should be utilizing that. And I don't mind them shrinking down the sizes of the operations for industrial chicken, because that's not what we should be doing. We should be moving to this other thing. And I hear so often that like this, we don't have enough land to feed the planet on this. We're not supposed to be feeding the planet. We need to have enough land to feed the people who live on that land. And we have more than enough space here in the UK, definitely in Canada. We have enough space in the UK here to feed the population of the UK right now, doing these regenerative and market garden growing. But you're going to have to eat sustainably. You're going to have to support your farmer. You're going to have to maybe put some work in on some farms. You're going to have to eat seasonally, and you're going to have to eat nose to tail. We have to go back to that, because right now we're very selective. We're, just eating chicken wings off of 20 chickens so we can have a pile of 20 wings, like 40 wings on our plate. It's things like that we have become so disconnected from, and the solution isn't a factory solution. All this plant-based and lab-grown meats and everything is just taking away the big silos of animal and instead putting a big factory. It's not any better for the environment by any means. All that equipment, all the stuff, it has no benefit to the earth other than you've removed some cows, so the pee content in poo content isn't as dense. Well, that's great. We can change that with regenerative. Anyway, that's our rant. That's what we're kind of building towards. That's what we want to kind of do. And it's bringing the best of those kind of traditional practices from way back when to a modern resources that we have today. When we talk about going back to a better, simpler time, we're not saying we should go live in caves and get rid of medicine and get rid of all these things, which so many people think is the goal. It's not. It's to go back and take those principles, but use with the knowledge of what we have today and make it better and improve on it. And that's basically what everything we should grow is. Medicine should heal, not treat symptoms. And, you know, food should be real and not Cheetos. And, we should be investing in those things. And if we just invested in that and lived in these communities, we would be far more healthy, far more happier, and be working less. And I mean, you're never going to get out of this consumerism world that we're in at the moment. But ideally, that's the Eden we should be going back to. So skills we're actively building while we're waiting to get to our farm is basically revolves around that. It's sourcing our food locally, as we can't grow it in our backyard. And we're sourcing to see if we can maybe find a patch of land that we can rent and put some like chickens on, or some pigs, or a market garden or something. So we're looking to either rent land to do that, but in the meantime, we're going to source it from the local farms and see what they offer and buy it from there. Now, my budget isn't always, I can buy it directly from the farm. I don't have that money all the time. So I do shop at the cheaper supermarkets. You do the best as you can, but I do try to get UK based meats and UK made apples and things like that. You try and look at all the packets, and you'll eventually find one that is UK or Canadian. Like, Canada's knowing how to do this now with all the tariffs going on over there. So look at that and start getting as close to home as possible that you can afford into your basket and into your kitchen, and learning how to cook it. Choose the less common cuts, learning how to use the whole animal, how to buy the fat get piles of fat from your butcher and rendering it down into lard, things like that. There's so many different things you can do. Buying a bigger steak instead of it sliced up is cheaper. You have to pay more to get the bigger piece, but it's cheaper than getting it cut up and into slices. So if you can get the bigger piece, get that, cook it, slice it up, have it over several meals. And embrace the kind of traditional cooking that we've lost. Now, cooking used to take hours and hours and hours, and it can, but we've got modern resources now, like slow cookers and things that we can put it on, where we don't have to maintain that cooking. If we're slow cooking something over the fire stove, well, we have to tend to that, make sure it's not burning, and keep on top of that. And now we have slow cookers, so we can throw it all in there, forget about it for the day. There's many different ways we can take those traditional cooking into more of a now type of thing. And that doesn't mean take that traditional cooking and then buy it from the grocery store already done. Don't do that, right? We want to avoid processed food, harmful seed oils, reduce that. So we've removed all seed oils from our diet, except for what junk we buy into the house. So that's our next thing, is removing the junk and removing the processed foods as much as possible. It's hard. It's addictive. I have addiction to these things, so I'm working on that myself as well. The kids are addicted to it. It's easy to just give them a bag of crisps or whatever. So it's a work in progress for us. Focusing on cooking with animal fats, that's all we cook with. And seasonal ingredients, that's something we're really trying this year as well. And taking the opportunity to grow as much as we can. We're kind of holding off at the moment because we might be moving. So if we move, then we'll be starting up kind of a garden and that. Being able to reuse your leftovers and it not just going in the bin 4 days later. We're, practicing kind of doing things like canning and freezing and fermenting, drying, that kind of thing. Learning those kinds of skills are helpful because you're going to use it. Once you slaughter your first cow, pig, whatever, You're going to have all this meat. How do you render down that fat? How do you slice it up? What do you do with a chunk? How do you decide how to cut it? How do you make that go through multiple meals? How do you can that? If you can learn those skills before you get that big animal, then when you get that big animal, once you get your farm, you'll know exactly what to do with it. And it's not trying to fumble and learn everything on the go. Set mini goals for financial kind of earnings. Well, I'll go into this more in another video, but can you make money? We're aiming to do a little farm stand, like a farm stall at the end of our driveway, to sell things that we bake, make, and grow on there to start making a little bit of income. We're also making income off of YouTube and that kind of thing as well. Financial management and budgeting wise, that's kind of our goal, right? Those kind of different ways through our teachings, our digital products, and researching kind of affordable land and things. We're doing a lot of research into other people doing what we are doing and their different ways of how they came about it, because the system of buying land and how it works here is different than it is in Canada. So that's what we're researching and learning right now. What is needed to buy the land? What is needed to be able to do the things we want to do on it? And where is that likely going to happen for us? Or do we need to leave the country? Ideally, we don't want to leave the country, but it's looking at those options and where we can best do that. Yeah, so lean into those kind of growing your vegetables. Like if you're in an apartment with no balcony, you can grow herbs on your windowsills. You can grow some things by your windows. You can source it locally, maybe get a little plot of, like, a community plot of land that you can work on. Maybe use a friend's garden to grow some stuff, and really start to look at what you can do. If you have a bit of a balcony and stuff, you can do more. You'll be surprised what you can grow in those vertical towers and things. And though we're more carnivore based, very little fruit and veg, you still can grow some stuff, especially during the summer season where we would be eating that stuff while walking around and things. Grow your blueberries, grow your raspberries, strawberries, that kind of thing. Make some jam, look out for sales from farms that are getting rid of crops that, need to be rotated out. And my final piece of advice really is connect with like-minded people. Find local people that are doing those things, learn from them, help out maybe occasionally in their own gardens, that kind of thing. Maybe you have an elderly neighbor nearby that loves to garden, but they're getting a bit older and they need some help. Maybe you can help them out and in return grow some of your own veg and things and share it with them. There's just being open-minded to the different avenues and being creative on how you can do the things you want to kind of do in the space that you have now to then give you the skills to thrive when you go bigger. So many people just go for the homestead and then it's figuring it out. We basically did a lot of that ourselves. We did some stuff, but when we got on the homestead, it was figuring it out as you go, and we learned a lot, and it's a nice crash course, but we definitely want to be more prepared going into our new place. The hardest kind of part of planning for a farm without currently having land is managing our eagerness and patience. So we constantly remind ourselves, and we want to remind you too, that every small action counts, whether it's eliminating those healthy seed oils or preserving seasonal produce or simply cooking nutritious meals at home. Each step is a valuable advancement. So homesteading begins where you are. Adopt skills and habits that resonate with you personally. Don't feel pressured to adopt popular trends. And if you don't align with your family's lifestyle or preferences, your homestead should reflect your interests. Don't buy a box of cheap strawberries to make strawberry jam if your family doesn't eat jam and doesn't like strawberries. There's no point to it. Yes, you can sell it, but what happens if you don't sell it? Now you have all this jam to eat. Make things you eat, you want to enjoy, sell the excess, and your love for that will come through and you'll sell more that way too. So long story short, even without land, homesteading starts right where you are today. So through the food you cook, the skills you build, the money you save, and the community you create, every small step you take is building the foundation for your dream homestead. So we hope our journey inspires you to start exactly where you are and take meaningful steps towards a more sustainable, intentional lifestyle. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. So many of you are not subscribed that watch our channels. So do that for more valuable insights and practical tips. We're really committed now to sharing ongoing strategies, inspiration, and real world advice to empower you to begin your homesteading journey right from where you are today to get you to where you want to be. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.